Hello, it's another Wednesday, another update on my dolls since last week. Still September, still I am not going to thrift stores, but I am allowed to go into regular stores. Hello, Chip. You can help me? No one wants to see that, Chip. This is Chip. He's my boy. Alright? You good? Hello, Chippy. Thank you. Don't eat the plastic chip. Yes, thank you, sweetie. Is this good, Chippy? Oh, thank you. Anyway, I probably have cat hair all over my face now. So, I went into Walmart again just to check the dolls. Nothing caught my interest, no changes from before. Of course, I ultimately went in there to see if there was any different Halloween stuff, and there was a little bit different. They finally brought out, now I have cat hair in my mouth, hold on. They finally brought out the Halloween jewelry, so I got to poke through that. All cute, nothing that quite had to come home with me that didn't come home with me last year. Paying for it, I'm not shoplifting. When I say come home with me, it's just me avoiding talking about paying for stuff, but I do pay for everything. I know there's a huge shoplifting culture. Don't shoplift. So, anyway. Nothing that seemed worth buying this year that I haven't already bought last year because the same designs do carry over. But walking through the clothes, I did notice a rack of Halloween leggings, and I could not resist the most obnoxious. Let's see. Because look at this print. Not only is it Halloween, but it has pink and purple, so it'll actually match the rest of my clothes. So that's a nice tacky Halloween thing. No dolls purchased. I went into Big Lots too to look at Halloween stuff. Again, it was all cute. Nothing quite worth buying. And the dolls, it's all, last season's dolls and the season before that dolls, higher than they were at retail. They're still there if anybody still wants them. I remember, I'm old, I remember when Big Lots was a genuine closeout store and they got weird stuff. Still regret a little bit not buying. They had every Spectra doll. And the dolls very slowly sold out until all that was left was the buffer bed. I remember those going on super clearance in the late 80s, and I don't know if they ever actually sold any of those because that was a weird toy. Okay, but doll things that I have done over the last week. I, somewhat impulsively, made a dress for Valeska. This one has no pattern. It's just, it's a tie-back halter top. It's a triangle for the top with the skirt sewn to it, folded over with a bit of folded and hemmed cloth for the tie, and this necklace I made a while ago. Still not exactly the style that I'm envisioning for her, but until I get good shoes, I don't know if my brain's going to be able to click into actually what I want to do. And as much as I like this wig, I actually almost want to make her rockabilly. That's why I gave her the big dramatic eyebrows, even though they're not, I guess they're arch enough to be 1950s. She's kind of also inspired by René Rao illustrations, even though those were just stark black and white and red with no shading. But I do have a vague idea of what I want to do with this doll. I just haven't gotten myself into gear to do it yet. Like I said, my brain takes a mini Super Dollfie and says, this is not a child. Don't treat it like a child, even though I remember when all ball-jointed dolls were children. Back in the day. I guess this is going to be the video of me talking about how old I am. I'm not that old. but I am older. Not as old as the dolls I used for my next, how's that for a segue? Not as old as the dolls I used in my next projects. On Saturday, it was a lovely, gloomy, overcast day. It stormed in the afternoon. I'm usually one for natural light, even when it's dim or just lamps on around the room, but that day I turned on the overhead light and I pulled out all my doll parts storage boxes, the box I keep the heads in, the box I keep the hands and feet and sprue and joints in, the box I keep all my spare bodies in, the box I keep all the body parts in that I've disassembled from other bodies, things that seem like they could be useful. That box had a lot of bodies, like the body for the Janae. The body's in perfectly good shape. It didn't even break her neck knob pulling her out, which is, if you've de-headed a Janae before, you know that's a feat. And things like that, like Scary Spice's body. Bodies where the heads all went to more mobile bodies, but the bodies themselves are just fine. And I've been keeping those because maybe there was a use for them, but I do feel guilty about cutting up bodies that aren't broken. So I just took all the decent bodies and put them on a lot. They're up on eBay for super cheap right now. I'm not thinking, no profit off of them. I just want to get them into the hands of somebody who can use them or store them without guilt. But anyway, so I was going through my box of dolls and doll parts, and also in that box were the souvenir dolls and the 1940s dolls, the Dress Me dolls. The kind of old-fashioned dolls. Of course this is me, they're all from the thrift store, they're not worth anything. And one of the things about these dolls that I like is the souvenir dolls. And a lot of these dolls, it's a way to get that vintage, genuine vintage doll, but in a non-Caucasian skin tone. So you can get some variety, even though they still use the head sculpt, same head sculpts. And I like to feel like some of these dolls I'm liberating from the stereotypes that they're dressed in. And so there was one doll that I got a while ago. This is her body. She had braids and a headband and a baby strapped to her back and just this horrible Native American stereotype. And so I peeled all the clothes off and peeled off the wig and thought, well, there was a possibility I could still find a way to use the doll to make something more modern. So she's been sitting in my parts for a while, and as I was looking through all of my spare bodies and parts bodies, my eye fell on all the gymnast Barbie bodies I have. If you have much familiarity with Barbie bodies from the 90s and earlier, they have a problem with, I don't know if it's the plastic getting old or if it's a reaction between the torso plastic and the vinyl on the head, but the tops of the necks will just disintegrate pretty much. They just get so brittle that you don't even have to be trying to take the head off. You just tilt the head too much in one direction and the neck will crack. So I have gymnast Barbie bodies with necks in varying degrees of crackedness. Usually when I have a neck that's just a little bit cracked, I will put plastic weld on it to try to get it to fuse back together, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. So anyway, I took a cracked neck gymnast Barbie body, and the head that was on this body, it had a hook on the bottom so that it would latch onto the rubber band that's holding the arms on. So it was strung on that way. So I took the gymnast Barbie body and basically cut the neck off and hollowed it out, curved it out inside with the Dremel, so that it would be like this. Cut it off, smoothed it, and hollowed it. And put that head from this body on the gymnast body. Me being me, no longer American Indian, which is India from India, partly because I wanted to make a sari and I hadn't for a while, and I don't like to put saris on white dolls just like I don't like to put kimono on white dolls. Yeah, And yes, this is the same, it was a scarf that I believe Emmy Moon sent me in one of her big boxes of doll and craft stuff. So I used the edge of it to get the border print on this sari and this dress. And made a quick tray. It's not very good because I'm not good at working with sheer gauzy cloth. But anyway, I went through a list of Hindu Indian names, and her name is Pratima. The color match between the tan Barbie body and the Souvenir Doll's head is not great, but I think it's passable when it's covered like this. And the head is strung onto the body with, I looped some really heavy decorative metallic green elastic around the support in the torso that the pelvis is attached also with something looped over that. So it's a very strong support. So I looped that around and hooked the head's hook onto the elastic and pulled it out the back of the torso and pulled it tight and tied it off and stuffed it back in. And it poses pretty well. It still wants to spring back straight, but that's better than being floppy. And the hair, this is just the kind of wig that I peeled off of another Souvenir Doll. Might do something better for her eventually, but you know, I don't like to make these dolls too elaborate because the original Souvenir Dolls themselves and the Dress Me Dolls and the Pose Me Dolls are pretty kitschy, cheesy. So, there's Pratima. And then I was messing around with more of these old dolls. Like, you know, this kind of doll has frozen legs. There is no joint here, and the arms, again, are strung on with rubber bands, many of which these old rubber bands deteriorate badly, and I'm surprised this rubber band hasn't broken yet. It's like, I got this doll a few years ago, and once I peeled her clothes off, which I don't know if you can see, her original clothes were stapled on, which is very common with this kind of doll. So I got the clothes off. A lot of times they just have either mohair or saran glued directly to her head. This one had a combination of glue and staples on her head. But her original elastic just had fallen apart, so she's strung with sewing elastic, hooked over the support in her head and down through her legs, and I think she's strung all as one, so the arms are on the same piece of elastic. But this is the kind of body that a lot of these dolls have. Let's see if her eyes open. And, you know, it's a cute little pre-Barbie fashion doll body. And I had another body like this that I found in the thrift store. And when I found it, it was still dressed and the arms were still attached, but the elastic that had been holding the head and legs had, who knows how long ago it had come apart, whether it was in the store or whether it was donated. I found the legs, no sign of the head. So I had a body pretty much like this in the parts box. I wasn't sure if I would ever use it, and since I had everything out on Saturday and I had already come up with this idea, I thought, well, not sky's the limit, but let's think about this, just anything goes. And what I ended up doing is realizing that the Blythe wannabe Little Big Eyes head that Amy Moon had sent to me, possibly in the same box that this sari had been in, possibly not, that head would look cute on a body like this. The problem was, of course, that the neck opening was far too small, so back down to the Dremel, and I curved out the inside of the neck, made the neck opening larger, and here she is. Now, this head is not terribly stable because it weighs so much. You know how much a Blythe head weighs. And this body is hollow, so all the weight is up here. However, I can get her to stand. I'm not sure if I can get her to stand right now because I'm doing this backwards. Anyway, I can get her to stand. She is strung with, again, some metallic craft elastic. I had originally strung her up, well, her arms are strung on with the original elastics, the original rubber band. So the head and the legs are all strung together with the craft elastic. The wig is glued on. And I think that this is a cute combination. She's a little bit taller than Blythe. If I thought about it, hold on. Okay, here is my Blythe, Miss Martha Blackheart. Also a gift from Emmy Moon. Do you sense a pattern here? So she's standing on the desk, and here's the big eyes. So, you know, she's a little bit taller, and this body is close to Barbie size, but the waist and hips are a little wider, which good for doll variety. And so she's wearing a lot of knits and elastic waisted things. The eye mechanism kind of works if I coax it a little bit. So I will maybe at least sand her face to take the gloss off of it. I don't think I will spray matte it. I think I will actually sand matte it. And probably get rid of her eyebrows because, you know, the Blythe aesthetic is no eyebrows. Or maybe not. Maybe I will leave with a little big eyes aesthetic. I'm not sure. I have the knowledge to customize her eye chips. And I'll probably suede the inside of the neck so that the head can hold position a little bit better. But yeah, for a doll made from parts I wasn't sure if I would ever find a proper use for, because finding a body for the little big eyes head, her original body was broken. And I had a I had this body, which is very much a Takara Rika knockoff with a ball, you know, the clone doll ball joint on the top of the head. This was originally a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers doll body. The head on it now is from a little toddler craft doll head that John sent me. And I really like it on this body, so I was not going to take this head off and either modify the neck or modify the inside of this head to fit on this body. That would have been a more Blythe-like body, of course, because Blythe started out with Rika's body. But again, I think I'm starting to ramble. I like the little big eyes head on this old style body. And now it's up to me to decide how much more customizing I want to do. Sorry, it's allergy season. I actually had the same thought with this doll. It is possible, I mean, I cannot take her head apart to get the eyes out because it is welded, glued together, welded closed too well. But it's possible I could try to give her a modern ball jointed doll style face up. That would just be for the sake of doing it. I really do like her vintage, minimal face with her very, very secure in her ability to judge you eyebrows. And so it just comes to, I've seen some little big eyes customs that are really cute, done with proper face-up skills, which I don't know if I have them, but you don't get them without practicing. So if I do it, I'll let you know in a future video. Thanks.